Good morning. I mean, say good morning from us. Good evening to you. Thank you all for joining us again. I think all of the faces on the screen are starting to get familiar, but we have one new face I do want to introduce. Rebecca Herrick is our new Director of International Admissions. She started 2 days ago, and so we're thrilled to have her aboard. She is a current parent. Her husband, Pete, is one of our deans of students. He's a head soccer coach and teaches Spanish. And Rebecca really worked for VES last spring when we were first dealing with coronavirus, and was a super helpful presence in the marketing communications office. And so we're thrilled to have her take on this new role. And she brings a vast breadth of experience from a corporate and professional world. And so we know she's going to do a great job, and she's someone you will get more familiar with as the year progresses. So welcome, Rebecca, and thank you for being on this call. I'm not sure we're going to have as many answers as some of you all might want to hear this morning. We are still working through a lot of things. The big picture overview for us is that we had a remarkably successful fall. We ran, I think, our hybrid learning model was very effective. The on-campus experience was primarily, it was safe for the students and for the faculty. And I think we provided very good learning outcomes for all of our students. But we felt really good about where we were when we left at Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, the situation with COVID in this country has continued to deteriorate at a pretty rapid pace. So we are constantly monitoring the news, but we are determined that we're going to resume online learning next week, and then we will begin in-person classes February 1st. As many of you have probably heard, we are putting a renewed emphasis on the in-person experience this spring, simply because most of our students do have the ability to get to campus. And we know that once they're here, we can do a good job of providing great academics as well as a safe learning environment. So we feel really good about our ability to do that. That does not mean that we know that for many of you, especially, getting back here for in-person is going to be impossible, if not extremely impractical. And we have not forgotten about you. We want to make the learning experience as rich and robust as we possibly can. Although we don't have all of the details finalized at this point, in part because they're still trying to figure out who is going to be here and who is going to be a remote learner this spring. But we are going to put into place some new measures to support the students who cannot get back to campus. So it's going to be different this spring than it was in the fall. But we hope that with that difference, we will also be able to provide more support, especially for you all who cannot get back here. So that's sort of the big picture overview. I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Chutlos now for a little more detail. So thanks, Mimi.
Thanks so much, Garth. And I think you set that up really well, that we have a couple of different models in place for providing support, especially, and we're really focusing on those of you who, no matter what you do, cannot get back here, for whom it is logistically impossible to return. We have looked at what worked well in the fall and what didn't work as well in the fall. And we're trying really hard to finalize a plan that can ensure that those of you who cannot get back here still feel very connected to the community, and still have the academic support that that's part of the VES experience. And we're looking at some different timeframes to deliver that. We're working with our academic departments to hopefully find faculty within the department with a wide expanse of knowledge across the department. And fortunately, we have some people who really know their stuff, and could teach virtually every class within the department, who can be a special support for your students at times that are most convenient for them. So as Garth said, the finalization of those plans depends on which students are not going to be able to come back to campus. And I know in the communication that went out, we were hoping to have that information by January 10th. Once we have that group of names, it will really help us move forward more quickly to finalize the plan of what learning looks like for students who absolutely can't be here with us. And, you know, just as in the fall, all the assignments will be there on campus. We're working with teachers to build their skills in recording classes and providing them after, but we just, as many students who might be listening in know, there were logistical difficulties in providing synchronous classes. Some teachers worked it out, and others, due to their spaces, really had a hard time with that. So we're trying to find ways to provide students with the content that's shared live in class, but it'll likely be after, instead of as much emphasis on live learning. But one thing I will be doing, and I encourage any of you to ask your children to reach out to me, and I'll be reaching out to students as well to get their feedback and to float the different ideas we have about the best way to provide them support, to get to see what they think will work best for them as well. Because that's, you know, hopefully it won't be too large of a group, so we can really personalize the structure of the support we provide. We don't want anyone to feel lost. We don't want students to feel disconnected, and we really want every student who can't be here to feel like they have a faculty member in the community who they are checking in with multiple times a week, and who's there to help connect with advisors here and their classroom teachers as well. So please know we are doing our best to find a model that supports those of you who cannot get back here, even though some of the instructional videos faculty have been creating, and the emphasis on connecting synchronously to classes may be reduced. And while I'm here too, I will just say that college counseling in the spring, we are planning a model that is organized very much online and set up as a class, certainly without a grade. But no students, no juniors will miss any content that's delivered through college counseling. And again, we've gotten quite good at one-on-one video conferences. So college counseling for juniors and seniors will continue to move forward as it always has. And I think we perhaps just wanted to shift into questions at this point, unless anyone else needs to jump in with some information.
No, thank you, Garth and Mimi, for getting us started. And we will shift to questions. There are a couple in the chat already. So Trip, I'm gonna throw this one to you. If international students are not able to come back to campus for the spring, what will be done to ensure their I-20 visa status remains in force?
Yeah, thanks for that question. Mrs. Johnson and I have gotten that question a lot from students in the last couple of days. And I spoke with an SEVP government official yesterday to make sure that this information was correct. But if you are a returning student to VES, meaning that this wasn't your first year at VES, all you need to do is make sure that the signature that was most recent on your I-20, likely from Mrs. Johnson, is within a year. So most of you, I think that signature will expire in March. If that signature is going to expire anytime soon, we will need to issue you a new I-20 if you can't arrive to campus before that date, simply because that travel endorsement has to remain valid while you're in school. For all new students this year, we just need to continue to monitor your visa appointments. So if you can continue to update Mrs. Johnson and I, if your visa appointments has been scheduled or canceled, we'll make sure that each of your I-20s on a case-by-case basis or remain remaining valid so that you can go to that visa appointment and hopefully secure a visa.
Question, Mimi, to you about talking through what will the spring in-class experience look like on campus for those who do have children back here.
Right. Well, as Garth said, we wanted to emphasize the in-person learning opportunities based on feedback from students who were here and faculty and parents too. So as you may recall, last fall, we had 3 class periods that met each day. So every class, there are 7 class periods in our rotation, and each one met twice. We've shifted our schedule so that every class will meet in person 3 times a week. So that means on Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, there will be 4 classes meeting, and on Tuesday, there will be 5. And 5 is the number of classes that we typically had in previous years. So that's the big change. We'll still have that long mega block break in the middle of the day. It's only shortened by 15 minutes. So on campus, we have a schedule so that we can have chapel when the weather's conducive to that. But there's still far fewer large group gatherings than we would have in a typical year, really, aside from that chapel. We're not gathering all the students together unless situation changes regarding COVID.
Maybe I'm thinking people may be wondering about what the situation in Lynchburg is like right now, and also maybe a quick overview of some of the mitigation and strategy and protocols we are going to have in place for the students who are returning, and why we feel pretty confident about getting open and for in-person classes despite the challenges.
Yeah, it's an interesting one out there. Lynchburg, by all intents and purposes, not doing very well right now. Our positivity rate, meaning the number of positive tests per 100, is at about 24%. You know, our hospital is still very much treating people. They're not talking about rationing care or anything like that. So our ability to treat people with COVID is being stressed, but it's still, they're still doing it effectively. The campus, we will look a lot like we did in the fall for the beginning. So some of the concerns are the new virus strains that are coming out that seem more contagious. Everything we're reading and being on the call yesterday with the local Virginia Department of Health and Centra Health, it's the same mitigation strategies. It's lots of mask wearing. That is the key, most important of the mitigation strategies. That will be continued as we did all fall and did pretty well. Physical distancing for the early part of the semester, you know, after February 1st, we're going to be pretty strict about that in those early weeks of the semester. I would say that the third part, you know, wash your hands, hygiene, we're going to continue with the things that we've been doing. We're also going to be testing much more aggressively than we did in the fall. We've got some new testing strategies, some new testing technology, and some new testing partners who are going to give us the ability to very much early on test both rapid tests, which are their PCR rapid tests, which allow us to get results in about 40 minutes. And that will be before people even enter the dorms or enter campus. Kids are going to have to return with a PCR test. Any international student arriving, anybody using public transportation for that matter, is having to do a 7-day quarantine with 2 tests in that quarantine period. And so there's a lot of the same things. Classrooms, we feel very confident that we can deliver academic class experiences, student life, meals, all those things that are relatively structured, we can do very well in a very distance format. Where you get concerned is the downtime and the social time. And so we've eliminated a little bit of that in our schedule. In other words, big breaks where lots of kids can congregate, and then the difficulty of physical distancing becomes apparent. So those are the things that we are, we're going to stress. And again, our goal is to open well and open COVID free. And then the goal is to catch or to mitigate the potential for a small outbreak of COVID becoming a large outbreak of COVID. The ability to say, hey, we're not going to have any COVID anywhere on campus this spring is just, I don't think that's a realistic attempt. But what we do know with aggressive testing and with strong mitigation, we can limit that. And then it's really just having kids live into those things. And then our ability, if we have to, as you'll hear over and over again, is to change what we're doing. And that's something that's been a theme all year, whether it's to a hybrid where students are not coming in and out of the community during the day, to a full virtual for a time period, if we have to do that. We don't want to do any of those things, but we are fully prepared to enter any of those scenarios if the situation, if that situation on the ground makes it necessary. What I do know, especially for our international students, is we are going to continue to support those kids that live. Worst case scenario, if we had to send day students home, and we had to send boarders home, domestic boarders, we are fully prepared to support our international students as long as they need to be here. And so that's something that you all need to hear, and we are absolutely committed to. We did a pretty good job. I had all the kids that are on campus over for zip lining and dinner the other night. Somebody did say, and I think it might have been Brandon Yang, Mr. Button, your burgers are worse than Miss Rem's. And I'm like, thank you for that. So they were all out playing tennis yesterday. And so I think there's been some good experiences. They have said, yeah, it gets a little boring, but for the most part, we're trying to engage them in meaningful ways. Educators are high on the list for vaccination. And that's something that we are keeping a very close eye on. We don't know when that will be, but we are hopeful that it will not be super late. And that is for the teachers and the people that are providing all this. And that is very important for us to be able to deliver our program down the road and make sure that our faculty are safe. So.
Thank you.
We are offering in-school opportunities to take the ACT and the SAT in the spring semester. Each test will be offered once. I believe one is in early March and the other later in March, right before spring break. So we are not offering Saturday tests that need to be open to the public on our campus, but we are offering these in-school opportunities. And I believe a more detailed communication about the dates and process for registering for those is actually going out today. So be on the lookout for that. And we'll be giving the pre-ACT test to all sophomores who are on campus. Again, that's like the PSAT is not a test that we forward results along to colleges, but it gives us helpful information in making recommendations for all students regarding which test, the SAT or ACT, might be best for them. So please let us know if you have additional questions about testing opportunities. We're so glad we have the option to test during the school week, and I know that helped a lot of students in the fall.
Great. Esther, would you like to talk about the January 10th deadline that we are requesting?
Hi, thank you. So it would be really helpful in knowing, and I have already received several answers from our international students, but I sent an email just a couple of days ago to our international students asking whether they will remain virtual in the spring for, the entirety or a portion of the time, or whether they'll be coming in person, so that we can support our students as they travel, and to make sure their documents are all up to date. So if parents could encourage, or the parents can email me at ejohnson@vs.org, just saying what the plan is. And if we could get that information, even if it's just saying, hey, even by January 10th, we really don't know. We really want to get there, but because of this and this and that, we just, cannot get there immediately. And we're just undecided. Any kind of response will be very helpful in our planning for our students and so that we can support them here, as well as so that we have a very clear idea of dormitory spaces and where students will be in the dorms. So those are all just information that will help us as we plan for the spring. But I do want to say that if our students, international students, do decide to come, we will always have a space for you. And it may not be the dormitory you may want to be in, but there will be a space for you, and we will make sure you're well adjusted.
Right, Chris, do you want to speak to sports, athletics in the afternoon in the spring?
Yeah, we're having them. We start our spring sports on February the 1st. And one of the reasons we're doing mainly spring sports is because all of those sports are outside. We will enter phase 1 when kids get back, which will be distance, individual skills, things of that nature. And there's a whole medical, way you do this, as kids have been off for 2 months. And while we hope they're exercising, not all of them will have done that. And so it really becomes about 2 weeks of physical training. And then they evolve into phase 2, into phase 3. And then, we hope likely late March, probably after spring break, being able to play some athletic contests against other boarding schools. In other words, other schools that are doing the same mitigation strategies that we are doing, but we are fully prepared to that. And we are fully prepared to have some sort of musical in the afternoon. And how we're able to do that, that's going to be an interesting one, but we might be singing outside, but we'll be singing. So that is what the afternoon program goes on. It's very important that we do this for the kids' health and wellness. And then, we hope to get back to where we can play some competitions. It's simply not a priority right now, given the difficulties within Virginia. But we do have a plan, and it's a plan that is very much based on boarding schools. And that's because we're really working with schools that are doing the same things we're doing.
And Chris, while we have you, you spoke a little bit about vaccinations previously, and I know you're going to be learning hopefully more today about that. But one of the questions is, will students be prioritized?
Yeah, so I don't think so. They have just started the studies of the vaccinations impact on the under 18 or under 16. It's either one or the other. I don't see that being a group that is prioritized. I see faculty and staff being a priority group. Right now, they are still in Virginia, and this is what I can speak to. They are still working through medical professionals. We do know Westminster Canterbury, our neighbor across the way, which is a retirement community. They are scheduled to get their vaccines, their first shot of vaccines, a 2-shot, 21-day or 28-day, depending on which vaccine they use. They are getting their vaccines next Wednesday. I ran into one of their residents and then had a talk with their CEO yesterday about what they're doing with that. And so it's going to be a little bit as things roll out. The issue with the vaccine, and they don't have enough information about this, it doesn't change your mitigation strategies. It simply helps, from our understanding, is the vaccine will protect you from getting, or give you 95% protection from getting sick, not from being a carrier. So it's not going to impact mask wearing. It's not going to impact other mitigation strategies. It's not early on going to impact our testing strategies either. I got that confirmation. You should continue, if you're doing surveillance testing, you should continue to test people that have had the vaccine. So that's
Thank
what
you. Trip, this may be for you. In the worst case scenario, would there be any legal issues regarding visas if students cannot return to campus for the spring semester?
No, and again, we just need to make sure that everybody's I-20 stays up to date. And for current students who this was not their first year at VES, all you need to do is, again, make sure that the signature on your I-20 is within a year. Catherine, I can even show a picture of that. This signature here, if you can see this, needs to be within a year. So if you're planning on returning to campus for in-person classes, all you need to do is make sure that this date is after the date that you will plan to arrive. And if you are not planning on coming back to campus, we just need to make sure that this signature is updated. So we will need to issue a new I-20 if this is going to expire before you can get back to the US. And again, that's only for current students. For new students, again, just please continue to update Mrs. Johnson and I about your visa appointment, and we'll make sure that you have an active I-20, up-to-date I-20, so that you can go to that appointment and hopefully get a visa. But no issues of losing your visa in this process. Mrs. Johnson and I are maintaining all of your records in the background so that you stay active in the system.
Great, thank you. There was a question about online AP opportunities. Mimi?
Information from the College Board is changing, but their current statement is that schools will be allowed to notify the College Board if there's specific students who are unable to come to campus. And for those students, online testing will be available. And they said a schedule should be released in early February. So we'll make sure that's shared out. Unlike last spring, when the AP tests were condensed and shortened, they're planning for the online tests to be full length 3-hour tests. So we shall see what that looks like, and we'll keep you posted as we learn more.
Great, thank you. And then back to you, Chris. If a student has signed up for a sport in the spring, will they be able to play that particular chosen sport?
Yeah, we don't expect any sport not to go. I think we're all set, ready to go on all of our spring options.
Great. Wonderful.
Well, there's one caveat: if you are a golfer, that we do fully intend on playing golf, but golf there is the only sport that we actually make cuts, and it's simply because there's only so many spots on the course at the given time to play. So that would be the only sport that there might be some limitations to.
Chris, you mentioned that there's the possibility that if a teacher is recording via Microsoft Teams, that some classes may be synchronous beyond that first session of the day. Is that correct?
Yeah, our academic technologist, Mr. Sedlar, is working on what is the best way to record classes. And one of the methods that is quite easy is to use a Teams-based thing. It's likely not to be synchronous in the sense that you're going to be able to interact with your classmates as much as before, because it's really going to be focused on, if there's instruction. And so it may be that part of a class gets recorded as kids break out into group work and things like that. But if we are using that method, if that's what he decides is the best way and the easiest way for our teachers to do it, then yeah, those classes, when the teacher is in fact instructing, presenting new materials, that could be recorded. And if you're using Teams, a student would be able to log into that. But that's still very much a work in progress. And we will figure that out over the next 2 weeks, but we've got some pretty good ideas.
Can I just jump in and add something that some students navigated very successfully in the fall was finding a friend, and this was student led, but they would find a friend in the class or reach out to someone in each class and just on their phone, and teachers were fine with this, would connect their friend with the class. And that works beautifully for us because the teachers don't have to manage the technology while also teaching, and their friend can sort of say like, we're going to go work in groups, so it won't, this might not be helpful for you. And that's something that worked very well. It was very challenging for teachers to try to coordinate that and deliver the instruction that they needed to. But that is something that's always an option for a student who really does want to try to shift sleep schedule, which always we hate that happens, but we know that for some it's the best way. If they want to be connected to their classes as much as possible, to work that out with a friend to stream them in is always an option.
In case there's one last question someone would like to pose, and while I'm giving that time, let me just say that we will continue to communicate. So just keep an eye out for those important emails that provide you updates. The website that I put in the chat will always have the most current information and links to those communications that go by email, links to class schedules, all of those types of things. So that is a really great one-stop resource for you. No additional questions? Garth, I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, again, thank you all for taking the time to join us this evening. And just as I hope you can tell, we really do value your partnership and your trust in us to do this well and to take care of your kids. And again, I wish we had more definitive answers right now, but we still have a lot to figure out and learn. So just stay in touch, stay tuned in, and we look forward to seeing as many of you as can get back here this spring.